For the benefited hires, you're already doing a good portion of that through the people admin system. That is not changing. You will still do most of that hire process through the people admin system. The only exception would be the same as it is right now. If you are hiring someone or transferring someone from one position to another, benefited to benefited, or non-benefited to benefited, right now you do that via a Change Form 101 and you attach documentation to that. You would still do that Change Form 101 for that process. However, if it is a new hire that doesn't have a job on campus or with your area or within the university, within our NDSU payroll system, you would be able to just use the people admin hire information just like you do now. And we, HR Payroll, will be initiating the hire and manager self-service for them. So it's no additional work for you for your benefited hires than it currently is now. So I want to make sure that is clear. So for the benefited people, you'll work with your recruiter very closely as you do now, and the recruiter is going to contact that new benefited employee and give them links to the employment information form and to the I-9. They're currently already giving them the information on the I-9, so it's really just the employment information form that would be new. And then that new employee, again, because you all aren't in Fargo, we're going to probably have that new employee bring that information to you, unless they happen to be coming to Fargo imminently for some reason. But and then you would either get that information to us or you would have the employee scan it directly to us. Again, if you can complete Section 2 of the I-9 because they are right there with you, we would want you to complete Section 2 of the I-9. However, if you're sending them to Fargo before they start and you would rather have us do the I-9, we can do that. Again, we're trying to be as flexible as possible with those benefited employees. The piece that we really need to have done before we will initiate the hire, HR Payroll will be that employment information form and at least Section 1 of the I-9. And then we'll coordinate how to best get Section 2 done as we cross those bridges with each of those, because of course the situations are all different. So once we get that employment information form and at least Section 1 of the I-9 in HR Payroll, we will notify the recruiter to finalize the request to offer in people admin, and then we will initiate the hire and we will retain that I-9 and we'll make sure that Section 2 is getting done. So again, just like your non-benefited employees, that new benefited employee is going to get an email with their temp ID and password, and then once they've taken action on that email, HR Payroll will finalize the hire, and then new benefited employee will also get a second email, and that's how they're going to get their ID, their EMPL ID. So there will not be an early EMPL ID process any longer. This will be the early EMPL ID process, will be this process being initiated. And then they'll get the same email to claim their account and claim the activity guide, and then we'll figure out again the Section 2. If they're there with you there and you are able to sign off, that's great. If you're sending them to Fargo, whatever your processes are, and you'll again work with your recruiter on that, we'll make sure that Section 2 of that I-9 gets done in the timely manner. So again, the hire process for the benefited folks isn't a lot different. You're just going to coordinate with your recruiter, and your recruiter's going to coordinate with our office, and we'll make sure that we're getting those new folks taken care of there.
Tricia, is there going to be a different process if we hire interns? Because I do actually have someone that's going to take an intern position this summer.
Is the intern going to be hired through HR Payroll and paid through payroll?
Yes.
Then this is
so
the process.
So just use this same one? Okay, and then the learning agreement, we just email that to Colette?
Yes, you'd either attach it to you can attach it to the hire as you initiate. I'll show you how to add attachments, or you can email it separately too.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Will this affect, like, giving our temporary employees raises? Will we have to do that through this new system, or will that still be like a 101 change form?
Yep, that's still a 101. This is for hires only. The only thing we're going to be doing electronically is the hire process and the term process. Any changes that you're doing will still be on a 101. Okay. So again, here's the flow chart for the benefited and the non-benefited. And I won't go through those, like I said. They're just there for you to reference. Here's that sample employment information form that we talked about already. And then this is a sample of the approval sheet that those who are doing the I-9 on campus, that we provide them to bring back to their department. But you aren't going to be having that, because you're not going to be sending your employees more than likely to Fargo to do their I-9s. You're going to be doing them there. Okay. So at this
One
point...
quick question.
Yes.
Sorry, one quick question before we
Yeah.
move on. Say I get the I-9 approved today. I look at it today and I sign it today, but I don't get the person into the system until tomorrow. Is that going to be an issue? Can you backdate?
It's still okay as long as the date with the I-9 jives with the date that you're putting in the system. It's not ideal. We would like you to initiate it right that time. If you're going to have them start today, we would like it initiated in manager self-service today. If for some reason you're not able to and it's a day later, as long as the I-9 date matches the date of hire, it's okay.
Okay.
Okay. So at this point, we're on page 9, and I'm going to move away from the manual, and I'm actually going to pull up HRMS, and we'll be doing some things, walking through some things directly in HRMS. So I'm going to move away from the manual now, but again, I'm on page 9, and I will reference what page I'm on as we go along here, because I won't be going directly back to the manual for a little while. So I'm going to sign in to HRMS. Okay. So the first thing that you're going to be doing when you're ready to initiate a hire is actually looking up the position information. So before you even know the person that you're hiring, you need to know the position number that you're going to be putting them into. You'll need to look up that position number and have that organized ahead of time, because there's no opportunity after you initiate the hire to type new or to type please change it to position number X. You have to know ahead of time, at the time that you're initiating the hire, what position number you're going to be using. So you're going to want to become familiar with the screens I'm going to walk you through, if you're not already, so that you will be able to know how to look up the position numbers that you need to have access to. So from the main menu, and again, it's in your manual, the navigation, so you don't have to scramble. You'll go to Organizational Development, Position Management, Maintain Positions Budgets, and Add Update Position Info. If you've never been to this screen before, I would suggest adding it to your favorites. That way you don't have to go through all that full navigation every time. It will just be in your favorites list. That you can, it's right there, that you can just access by going to your favorites, and it'll bring you right to that screen rather than navigating. It's just quicker. But you can certainly navigate if you'd like to. But you'd go add to favorites, and you'd enter however you wanted to name that, and you'd click OK. I already have it, so it's telling me I already have it. And then it will say a favorite has been saved. So that way you've got this screen bookmarked, kind of, is basically the way to think about it. So you can enter whichever parameters you would like to enter on this screen that you find helpful to search. What I like to do is I like to just enter my department number and click search, and that way it's just going to bring up all the position numbers in my department number. I don't have to try to sift through and find out, or try to find it by job code or something. You certainly can do that. I just prefer to bring up all the positions at once in my department. If you have a lot of positions in your department, you would want to click the View All button. That's not an option for HR Payroll because we only have 30 positions, because we don't have very many positions. So I don't have to click view all, but you may need to click view all so that you can see your full list. The other thing that I do when I'm on this screen is I like to click the job code column. If you just click on that column, what it will do is it will sort all your position numbers now in order by smallest job code to largest job code. That way all your positions that are similar are kind of grouped together, so you're not looking through trying to find, oh geez, where are my grad positions, where are my temp positions, because they're kind of scattered. Now they're going to be all in a nice little line and grouped together so that you can just view them easier. Again, that's just a tip. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. So the first thing that you want to be doing, and I think everybody is familiar with this, is you want to make sure that you select a position number that is appropriate for the work that the employee is actually doing for you, for your department. It's very important that we have the appropriate position tied with the appropriate job code, so that it's tied to the appropriate workers' comp code, so it's reported properly, et cetera, et cetera. They're all very much intermingled. So if you're ever wondering where the list is to look for the job code so that you can look up and make sure what you're selecting is correct, that is on our HR Payroll website under the Administrative Office Toolbox and under Job Family, Job Code Information. It brings up this screen and it has all of the job codes that are appropriate, and you would just go in. If you need to look up, you know you're hiring someone in a temporary position and you want to make sure you pick the right temporary job code, you would look into the options there. I'm going to be hiring a student employee for this demo, so I want to go to the student employee job codes. And I know that the student employee that I'm going to be hiring is going to be doing office work for us. They're going to be filing, they're going to be answering the phones. And so I know examples of position responsibilities right there is office worker. So I know that I want to be finding a position in PeopleSoft that has a job code of 880001. So that's just something I need to keep in mind as I'm looking for my positions, that I want to look for one that has 880001 tied to it.
Tricia, when you talk about students, you're talking about college students, correct?
Correct.
High school students aren't students. They're
Correct.
just temporary.
Yep, high school students are temporary. They're in the 9,000 band. When we talk student employees, we're talking with students enrolled at NDSU. So I've already sorted my positions by job code, and so I know that I'm going to go along here and look up. And here's some positions with options in the 8,000 job band. But I can see they're not the right job code that I want to be using, and when I look over at the titles, they're termed and they're inactive. So I don't want to be using those position numbers, but they're here, but I don't want to select them. So here I go along a little further, and I can see I come to one that is the appropriate job code, 880001, and it's a student general position, and it is active. So I want to take a look at this position number, so I just click into it.
Can I ask you a question, please?
Yes, absolutely.
When you're talking about students, you said NDSU students should go under the 8,000 band.
Correct.
Is that any college student or just NDSU?
Just NDSU. If they're attending school at Bismarck State or Dickinson or Williston, they are not NDSU students. They would be in the temporary hourly.
So even if I hire an NDSU student just temporary for the summer, I still should be putting them under the student 8,000 band?
If they're taking classes over the summer, then yes.
Oh. But if no classes, I can leave them in the temporary.
Yes, if they're an NDSU student but they're not taking NDSU classes over the summer, you would use the temp.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So as I bring out my position number, the first thing that I want to take a look at is the head count. This is what I like to just call a pool position. I know that there's lots of different definitions of what the positions are called, but this to me is a true pool position. I can have up to 999 student employees in this position. I currently only have one of them, but I know that this position is available for me to put people into because I'm certainly not going to hire another 998 students to go in there. So this position is open and available for me to use. If you are looking at hiring a graduate positions and part-time academic staff positions, I don't know that there's many of those that would be applicable for this group, but certainly there might be some graduate positions. If you click into the position and you see head count 1 of 1, that means that that position is already being used by someone else. You've already assigned that position number to another employee and you can't use it. It is a 1-to-1 position for your grads and part-time academic staff. And so if this one is currently filled and that the person you have it filled with is going to continue to be employed with you, you can't use this one. You would have to do your return to search and look for another position number that was available that said 0 of 1. So does that make sense to everybody? Your 8,000 band and 9,000 band are pools. You can have hundreds of people in those, but your grad student positions, just like our benefited positions, are 1-to-1. You can only have one person in at a time. So keep in mind to look at that head count. Other information on this screen that you'd want to look at, this is the job code, again, that we talked about looking at on the first screen. This is the title. This screen, because of my access, it looks like you can edit the title, but when you're viewing it, you won't be able to edit the title. And so it doesn't matter what you like to call your non-benefited employees. If you like to call them, farm workers of awesomeness or something, if you like to have a special title for them internally, you can absolutely do that. But the title in the system is not going to be changed. It's going to remain what it is right now. So just keep that in mind. You won't be able to edit your titles for your non-benefited employees. The work location information is in this field right here, these fields here. And your standard hours field is right down here. And I will show you when you initiate the hire, if the standard hours are going to be different, I'll show you where you will override and do that. So whatever this is right here, you will be able to change that when you're actually initiating the hire. The specific information tab isn't information that you would need to go to or look at or reference, so I wouldn't worry about the information on that tab. However, the budget and incumbents tab, that's a very helpful tab because that's the tab that's actually telling you the names of the employee or employees that are already in this position. So if I had more than one student employee in our office in this position, they would all be listed here. We only have one, Ryan, so it's only listing Ryan's name. You're looking at this and it's a grad position, for example, and you think that employee might be terming. If they're terming December 31st and you're initiating hire and getting ready for a January 1 hire date, well, even though someone is in this position, you'd still be able to use it when you initiate the hire. You just note that for us so that we would know that Ryan Blotsky is leaving December 31st, and so it's okay that I'm putting Tom Smith in this position effective January 1. So keep that in mind. So you might like this budget and incumbents screen to take a look at who you've got already in your positions. Okay, the other screen that you might find useful, and I'm going to move to page 11. I'm going to go back to my home screen so I can navigate you there from the home. From the main menu, you'll go to Organizational Development, Position Management, Review Position Budget Info, and Vacant Budgeted Positions. And again, the navigation is in your manual, so you don't have to worry about trying to scramble to write down what I just said. It is in there. You may want to, again, think about adding this to your favorites if you are going to find this field useful so that you wouldn't have to navigate to it every time. It would just be in your favorites. And what you would do on this screen, I'm going to put in my department number again and click search. And what this screen is going to do is it's only going to bring up vacant available positions that have a department budget table set up that are available for you to use. And so if you do happen to have open grad positions, for example, that don't have anybody in them and you have a budget set up for them, they would be here so that you wouldn't maybe have to hunt through that other screen to see which ones are open and which ones aren't. This is going to show you, I've got some open. Now if I look on the job information tab, here's the job codes that are associated with those positions. This screen is also going to show you your pool positions as vacant, because even though this is the one I was looking at on the previous screen, and you can see there's 998 open slots out of 999. So even though there is one person in it, it's still considered vacant because there's room for more people in it. So that's what this vacant budgeted position screen is going to do for you. So you might play around with the two screens. You might find that you like going to this one first, take a look at some of the vacant positions that are available, and then going to look at the details of those positions on the other add update position info screen. So really, these are the two screens we recommend using, but it's up to you to decide how you like to use them and what is going to work best for you to use. I'm on page 12, and what if you look at both of those screens and you can't find a position number that's available for you to use? You don't have a vacant position, or you don't have a position that has the correct job code, because we want to make sure we're paying attention to our job codes and stuff. So then what do you do? So if after viewing the list there are no available or vacant numbers to use, you do have two options. The first option is if there is another available position that will not be used in the future, but maybe it has the wrong job code with it, or it has the wrong title or something. You can make a request to change the title and job code to be what you need it to be now. That way you're not creating a new number. The other option, if that's not feasible or you don't have that, is that you can request to have a new position number created. So for either option, whichever one that you think is going to work for you, what you would do is you would send the Ag Budget Office, and that is Leanne and Eric, and Liz Thompson in HR Payroll. You'd send those three individuals the information that you need. Either, hey, can you please create a new number for me? Or, hey, can you just reactivate or fix the job code on position number XYZ? And then include your department information. I won't read through all of that. And effective date and those kinds of things. And then the Ag Budget Office and Liz will work together to either get that corrected for you if you're tweaking an existing position, or to create a new one, and then they will email you and let you know what that new position number is that you'll be able to use. So that's the steps that you'll have to do even before you initiate the hire, just to make sure that you're ready to go with the right position number when you are ready to initiate the hire. So these are steps that you may want to be taking now. If you're gearing up right now for summer hiring, and you think you may possibly need new position numbers or need something tweaked or something like that, looking at this position screens early and contacting the Ag Budget Office and Liz early will do nothing but help you down the road, so that when you actually get a name of the person that you're actually putting in the position number, then you're good to go and you're all set up, and you don't have to take the time to then do that setup piece, because then that delays you being able to get that hire initiated again. So try to think ahead of all the things that you can do preemptively to make sure that you're ready to go when you're actually ready to get those employees hired. let's see here, background checks, do we have in situations where background checks would be applicable? I'm going to throw it out here. If you would have positions, it's possible that you may, some of them that would require a background check. That background check, just like now, has to be completed before they start work, and continuing forward, you would need to make sure that you're making the arrangements with the appropriate office to be able to make sure that background check is initiated and completed before that employee starts work. That's not new. So if you do background checks, and of course we do them for the benefited employees already and stuff, you'd need to make sure that that background check was being completed. For seasonal employees, I know that there are several departments on IVID today that do work with seasonal employees. You would need to have that seasonal request completed ahead of time. You'd contact Noah Fisher in our office to request the approval. That's not new either. I think those of you that do seasonal employees, you know the drill and everything. You'd work with Noah to get that seasonal approval, and then you'll note the seasonal dates in the comments box that I will show you as we initiate the hire. So, and you'll update Noah's approval to the hire as well. And again, I'll show you where that is. We're finally ready to initiate a hire. You would initiate the hire right from your manager self-service screen on your homepage. If you have manager self-service access, you would have this manager self-service area on your homepage right when you log in to the HR system. It might be that it's minimized, so you might have it there and you might not even be realizing it, and you would just go to the little pagelet here and you'd say expand it, and then you'd see your manager self-service area there. So you would go to the new hire request link. If for some reason you decided you didn't want to do the new hire request link, you can navigate to it as well. So I'll show you the navigation. I would presume everybody would just do the link, but you never know. For manager self-service, you'd go job and personal information and new hire request. So either clicking the link or navigating like I just did gets you to this area right here, the request new hire page. And you would click the button that says request new hire, and you can see the first field that you have to enter is the position number. So you can't get too far without knowing what the position number is. So that's why I went through all that position information on the front end here. So I've already looked up and I know what position number I want to use for the work that this employee is going to be doing. So I enter the position number and I click the tab to tab out of it. And when I tab out of it, it brings up the title. And it brings up a screen that says, does an EMPL ID exist for this proposed hire, yes or no? On the employment information form that you're having those employees fill out, that new form that we've talked about, it does ask them if they have an EMPL ID or a student ID. So if they fill that in, and you feel fairly confident that they put in the right number, or you're rehiring an employee that you know has had an ID number assigned to them, feel free to say yes and put in that EMPL ID number. I'll put in my own. When I put in that ID and I tab out, it brings up the name of the person, so you can see that that is valid. If, however, you don't know what the ID is, or they don't have one yet, or you can't read their handwriting, so you're not quite sure if they've put the right ID down, or whatever the case may be, or you think they might have one because they went to Dickinson State, but you don't know what it is, feel free to answer no. Don't worry about holding up the hire to make sure or confirm what that ID is. Answer no and just fill in the name. Whether you say yes here or whether you say no, the HR payroll office will still take the same steps that we do when that hire gets to our office to find out if they do have another ID somewhere. So you don't have to worry about, if I say no and I just put their name in, then they're going to get assigned a different one or something like that. that you don't have to be concerned with that. We will find out what that ID is. Whether you say yes or no, we will search for them either way. So for this demo, I'm going to say no, and you must enter on this screen the first and last name. You cannot leave the screen blank. It won't let you move forward if you don't fill in first and last name. Middle name is optional. Okay, so I'm going to hire Mickey Mouse, and I'm going to click the continue button. And it brings you to the next screen. And on this screen is the start date field, and it is the email address field. You must fill in something in both of these fields, or it won't let you continue on. So these are required fields. It pulled in the name from the previous screen, so you don't have to re-enter the name field. So the start date, again, as long as that I-9 is completed, if they're starting work for you today, you can absolutely do today's date then. And that is fine as long as the I-9 is completed. What we're hoping is that we're at least getting a few days ahead of time that we're getting the I-9 completed and then being able to initiate, but we know what life can be like, and where you need people starting right away as soon as they finish. So you can use this calendar drop down. I'm going to say that this person is going to be, Mickey is going to be starting work for us on March 31st. So you can use the calendar drop down to fill in that date, or you can just simply type in the date as well, whichever you're most comfortable with.
What if you choose a date and they plan to start that day, and then for some reason we could use the extra help and they say, oh, I guess I'm available a few days earlier. Can they start earlier, or are they stuck to that date then?
If the I-9 is done, and so the I-9 is done today, and you put in a day 3 days from now, you put in March 31st, let's say that, and then they come to you and they say, oh, I could really start for you March 28th if you need me to. What you'll need to do is you'll coordinate that with me, because it depends on where that hire now is going to be in the workflow process. If you've submitted it and we already have it in job data, it might be too late to change in the workflow process, but we might still be able to do something via email. Or if it's already past the day and everything else, we might have to do a change form 101 to update the date. So it's going to kind of depend on timing-wise of where that is. So if those situations happen, just let me know, and then I'll take a look and I'll advise you on what the proper method of correction is going to be.
Okay.
Wouldn't it be better then if you've got an I-9 that says today's date, and even though you think they're going to start next week, just put today's date on it, because they're not going to be earning hours until they start really anyway.
You can certainly do that if you want to go that route. Something that's going to be really common, I guess, I don't know how often that would be, where you set a hire date and then they would decide to start a couple days earlier than that. So
yeah, these are high school students we're talking about.
It happens in Hettinger too. They'll say, well, I think I can start around this date. So I always give them leeway when I do the hire form, because they never know what they're doing, and then they just show up one day and they get put to work. So
sure, as long as the I-9 is done and you're using a date that's either on or after that date, that's fine. Whatever is going to work best for you. You just can't go before that date.
Okay, good deal. Thank you.
So the date on the I-9 form, is that the date where if you hire a seasonal, they can only work so many hours or so many months? Does it go off of the date on the I-9 form then, or does it go off of the date that you enter into HRMS? Like if there was a 2-week difference.
It goes off the date you enter in HRMS as their first day of work.
Okay. So if you filled it out 2 weeks, so if you had filled the form out 2 weeks early, you may not want to put that date 2 weeks early, because then you're going to lose the 2 weeks at the end if you needed them.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
And then for the email address field, I don't know Mickey Mouse's personal email address, so I am going to put my own. This is where, when we were talking, if you do happen to have some employees that maybe don't have an email, even a personal one, and so you're going to be assisting them with getting their emails and getting their activity guide and doing those things. This then is where you put your email address if you're going to go that route, if they don't have a personal email address at all. I wouldn't recommend that, because I don't want you all to have to get in the habit of needing to do this for every single employee, but if there are certain exceptions where you know that you'll be assisting them, I guess go for it. So I'm putting mine here because I don't know Mickey Mouse's. And then you click the continue button. And when you click continue, it brings up a lot of information that you used to fill in by hand on the paper green Hire Form 100. And it fills in a lot of it for you already based on the position number that you had already entered. So you can see position number is already there. It pulled in the business unit department information, and it pulled in the title right there. So the field that we talked about on the position information screen that you can edit, and we would want you to edit, is the standard hours per week field. So this is what's pulling in from that other position info screen that we'd already looked at. But we want you to actually reflect for us the actual number of hours that per week that this employee is going to be working for you. So we do want you to override this field so that it is accurate for this employee, Mickey Mouse, that you are putting in this position right here. So we don't want it to be general for the pool position. We want it to be specific for Mickey, that this is the hours that this employee is going to be working for us. If it's going to be a range of hours, they're going to work 15 to 20 hours per week for you, put the high end. This field will not allow you to have a range. So you'll want to put in whatever the high end is of what you're expecting that employee to work. If it's close, it's 15 to 20, put in the 20. I'm going to put in 15 for Mickey. That's about all we're going to have him working for us. And when I fill in the standard hours and I tab out, you're going to see that it's going to tell me that I'm overriding what the position information says, and that's fine. It's just giving that as a warning. And then it tied in the FTE, and it updated the FTE to be 0.38%, because a 15-hour per week position is 0.38%. When it was set up as 10 hours per week, the FTE was 0.25. So those two fields are tied together, which is nice because then there's less chance again for errors if you are that you would maybe put the standard hours as one thing and the FTE is the other, then they're mismatched, and then we might have to check with you. So those are tied. The campus address field, we're on page, let's see here, 21 in the manual. The campus address field, you'll note, does have an X through it, and that's because for our non-benefited employees, we don't enter a campus address for them. We don't want you to put anything in there. If you do put something in there, when it gets to me, I would take it out. Campus address for our non-benefited employees just tends to be too fluid. They have too many jobs in too many different locations, and so we don't find that this screen is a useful screen at all for our non-benefited, so we don't fill it in. For our benefited employees, however, our office, when we initiate this hire for you, we would absolutely be filling in the campus address information that we would have been provided through People Admin. So I don't want you to be concerned that your your benefited employees aren't going to be getting that information filled in, because they will. So please leave the campus information blank. Please also leave the contract length and tenure accrual fields blank. These, again, are non-benefited employees. They are not going to have contracts, and they are not going to accrue tenure. So just leave those fields blank. You don't need to touch them. Those of you who do use Kronos, you would want to check the Kronos employee box. And when you do that, it brings up the labor agreement field, and then you would select from the labor agreement field whatever your appropriate drop down is, if they are time clock or if they are time clock and PC or whatever they are. Those of you who use Kronos are used to filling in those labor agreement fields, and so you'll know what I'm talking about there. If you don't use Kronos, you would just not check that box, and then that labor agreement field doesn't appear. The work study box, we do not want that checked. This box is used for, there are campuses in the university system that have their work study hires get approval through their student financial services office or their financial aid office, however you want to say that. And so checking this box directs the approval for the hire to go through student financial services, and we don't do that at NDSU. That's not part of our business process, so we would like you to not check the work study box, just leave that blank. The comp frequency will default in based on the type of position it is. This is again a student general position. It is hourly, so it is going to default in as hourly. We'd like you to keep that at the default. There are very few exceptions, some of which we've talked to you even just today about them. Very few exceptions where we occasionally allow employees to be in a student or a temporary hourly position but get a set stipend amount of money. But those would be worked out ahead of time, and you would know ahead of time. You'd talk to Colette and I ahead of time, and we would make sure that all the approvals are in line for that. So in general, your hourly employees should only have a comp frequency of hourly, and you would fill in a comp rate that is an hourly rate. For your graduate students will default as monthly. And then we would like you to put the comp rate of monthly. So if they are to get $500 a pay period, we would want you to put in a monthly amount of $1,000. And then PeopleSoft, because we are paid semi-monthly, will divide that by 2 when it actually calculates the checks. But PeopleSoft is set up for our graduate students and our part-time academic staff with monthly comp frequencies, and so we'd like you to use that monthly comp frequency for those types of employees when they do come through. Again, the benefited employees, if they were on a contract or they were annual, we will be doing those, so you shouldn't need to be worrying about those fields at all. So again, I'm hiring Mickey Mouse, who is an hourly employee, and so I'm going to put in his comp rate of $8 per hour. The next field is the funding informations field. And you can see here, the default funding is what appears, and there is no place to edit that. You cannot change what the default funding is on this particular screen. If it's an hourly employee, you would normally, correct me if I'm wrong, Leanne, but you would normally override the funding yourself. If you need the funding to be different, you do that on the higher ed time entry screen as you enter the hours. So you would not do anything different for the funding here for those pool 8,000 and 9,000 band positions, because you're going to override that funding yourself as you enter. If, however, this is a graduate position or part-time academic staff, but I don't think there are many there. If it's a graduate position and you need this funding to be different than what it is on the default for whatever reason, the Ag Budget Office has said that what they will allow is if in the comments box, if you put in the combo code of the different funding that you need to be used for this position, then they will go ahead and make that change when this hire gets to their office to be approved. Then they will go ahead and update that combo code for this position to be what it needs to be. If you need it to be more than one, please put both combo codes and put either the dollar amount or the percent of how you need it to be split. Again, this comments box is going to be useful for those kinds of things. The departmental approvers. This field we would like you not to use. It is a field we've tried out using a couple of times, and it brings in different approvers into the mix that don't need to be. And so if you need to add an additional departmental approver, I will show you how to do that after you complete the submitting the hire, but don't add an additional departmental approver via this field. So just leave that blank. So we're at the comments and attachment areas. The comments field, as I said, is going to be a field that you will want to use frequently, just like you use it now when you send in a paper hire form or change form. You like to put comments, and we appreciate those comments in those fields. You'll use this comments field that same way. So if there are seasonal dates, you're going to put the seasonal dates in the comments, and you're going to add the attachment that has the approval. If you're overriding the funding, you're going to put the different funding information in this comments box. If you've had to use the ACA multiplier, or if you're having this person work 30 hours per week for you, but you know it's only going to be for a month, and so you don't want us to offer ACA, please put in the comments, only working 1 month or 2 months or whatever it is, don't offer ACA, something like that. So that we would contact you to find out how long are they working, so we find out if they need to offer them ACA. If they've had to have a background check and they completed their background check, you would put the background check completed date in the comments box. If they are getting a grad tuition waiver, you'd put the please give them a tuition waiver in the comments box, those kinds of things. So we use the comments box a lot for all sorts of different items. Luckily, you can get 2,000 characters in it, so hopefully we'll all be able to fit everything that we need in there. But the comments box will be very much useful, and details on that are on page 21 and 22 in the manual.
Will
yes.
Will that be the only place that we can put in for the grad tuition waiver? There won't be like a box like there was on the forms before?
No, there
Okay,
won't be a
thank
box. Yes, you'll want to definitely put that in comments. And then the last field here before we submit is the add attachment field. So if those of you who are familiar with adding attachments to terminations, it's the same process. So this is where you would upload that employment information form. This is where you would upload the seasonal approval. You would upload any additional documentation that you might have normally stapled to the back of that hire form 100. Justification for hourly wages, if you're paying over $13 per hour, all those kinds of things, that would be done as an attachment. And you would click the add attachment link and browse to wherever you've saved those attachments on your website. If it's on your desktop, you would just click desktop. I don't have anything here to open, but you would click the open button, and then it would appear right here, and you'd click upload. You can certainly scan all of your items together so that you're only uploading one thing for that employee, or if you prefer to have everything all separate and upload each document as its own itemized thing, you can certainly do that as well. It's really your preference. If it's easier to scan 3 or 4 or 5 documents together and upload just once, you can certainly do that. And then it would go here as an attachment, and you'd be able to look at it to make sure it uploaded correctly. PeopleSoft really likes PDF documents as attachments, it likes Word documents, and it likes Excel documents. Those upload the easiest, and I've never had one yet that hasn't been able to open. Emails directly from your email account, they tend to upload and look as garbled symbols, and so they don't work very well. It's easier if you need to upload an email to print the email and scan it and upload it as a PDF document. Same with, like, I've had people try to upload text messages before or things like that from their smartphones and stuff, and they just don't work. So PDFs are really the best option for being able to upload and use items as attachments. If you can't open it or read it when you've uploaded it, I'm not going to be able to either, and so I would be contacting you to have you email me, and then I would take off the old one and upload a new one. So keep that in mind for attachments.
Could we use the comments section to put the justification for an hourly wage?
Yep, you absolutely can. Yep.
Rather than adding an attachment?
Yes. Yep. There are some departments that really like a separate attachment and some that are fine with doing it in comments, and so whichever is your preference is fine. So now you have entered all your information, you've put your comments that need to be in there, you've added any attachments that are required to be added, and you're ready to click the submit button. And it's going to give us a warning that says you didn't enter anything in this departmental approver box over here, which we don't want to do, which is good. So it'll say, do you want to continue? And you will say, yes, you do. And then after you submit and it saves, you can see down at the bottom now, it's assigned a transaction number. And we're moving on to page 23 and 24 in the manual at this point. And it is pending along the pre-approved workflow path. So for your student hourly and temp hourly employees, I'm looking at the manual on page 24, those hires go from the department, they go directly to the Ag Budget Office, or mine goes just to the budget office because I use an HR payroll position, but yours would go to Ag Budget. And then from that office, it goes right to the HR payroll office, to the manager level, and then the level where it actually gets finalized. So you can see there's not a lot of levels that this hire is going to need to go through. We do move them through very quickly. And so once they are submitted, they're really, as long as everything looks in order, there shouldn't be a long time before they're actually finalized and able to get into job data. Provided, again, that when it gets to the HR office, that employee has done what they need to do.
So it doesn't, if I'm adding this, it's not going to go to Blaine before it goes to Ag Budget?
It is not. If you want or need it to go to someone else, your director or whatever, another level other than the pre-approved level that's on page 24, that's where you will add an additional approver. So you would click the Add Approver button. I think, Myrna, you do this now probably when you're adding for terms. It's the same process. You click the green Add Approval button, you enter the user ID, or you look up the user ID, if you don't know it, of the person that you need to add. And now you have the option to add that person as an approver or a reviewer to this hire. Remember, it's the same as it is for the term process. If you add someone as an approver, that hire now is not going to move forth and go into job data until that person logs into HRMS when it's their turn and approves it. It will stop with them. If you add someone as a reviewer, it will not stop the hire from moving forth. Whether or not Bruce Bollinger, if I would add him as a reviewer, would actually log into the HR system and take a look at that hire or not, it will not stop it if I'm adding him as a reviewer. If I add him as an approver, it will stop. So keep that in mind. It's the same as it is for the terms. Approvers stop the process. Reviewers, it continues to go. I'm not actually
Okay,
going
so
to...
it's...
Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No,
If I added the plus button to add Blaine in, he would actually be in after the Ag Budget Office, wouldn't he? Can
That's
you move
correct.
him to the... So it would go to Leanne first and then back to Blaine?
Yes.
Okay. And then it just continues on to HR if he approves it. But there's no way I can put him in before Leanne?
No.
Okay.
The person who's next in line for approval does get an email when it's their turn. So it comes from peoplesoft.gov. So at the time that I submitted, I clicked the submit button, the budget office on my campus got an email from peoplesoft.gov saying you have a hire that's pending your approval. It's very quick. Also at the same time I hit submit, that's when the employee got their email. Mickey Mouse got an email at my email address that said, Mickey Mouse, thanks for coming to NDSU. Here's your temp ID and password to log in. That's how quickly that happens. Those emails are happening right away as soon as you click submit. So then the last thing to look at in terms of the manual before we get to the I-9 is I do have in the back of your campus manual, starting on page 25, I do have samples of the emails that the employees are getting and some screenshots of just the first couple of screens that they will get as well. So on page 25, once the hire is submitted, the new employee gets an email from ndsu.hr@ndsu.edu, and it goes to whatever email address that was entered, and it says, welcome, we're continuing the process, and here is your temp ID and password. And then here's the link for them. It's a very basic email. It hopefully shouldn't be too cumbersome for people to be able to follow along with. So what they would do is they would click this link. It brings them to the login screen, and then they use their temp ID and password that were on that email to log in, and this is the only screen that's there for them in employee self-service. So it's hard for them to not know where to go. Again, we try to make it as easy as possible. It's the new employee personal data link. And when they click that link, here's their very basic personal info that they would need to enter on this screen. This is just the preliminary stuff. It's not the full activity guide. This is just the information that we need so that we can find their EMPL ID. This is what we need so that we can look. So if you said, no, I don't know the EMPL ID, but I know the name, we need this stuff from the employee so that we can look them up and find out if they already have an existing EMPL ID somewhere else. So that's what this information is going to be gathered for. So name information here, gender, date of birth, social security number, or social security number applied for. If they are a new international employee and they don't have a social security number yet, they can still continue with this, and we want them to do that. They would just check the social security number applied for box instead of putting in the number, and they would leave that blank. Basic contact information for address and a basic phone number information, and click submit. So this initial new hire screen should not take them very much time at all. So now, provided that the employee has done that, and then it gets to HR Payroll through whatever other approvers are being added or that are pre-programmed in. When it gets to HR Payroll, as long as the employee has taken that action on that email, we will finalize it in job data. And then overnight, again, that's when this second email, and this is a sample of that second email, is issued. So the overnight process runs to give them their real employee ID number, and then it says congratulations on your employment, and then this is again filled with several different links that the employee will need to follow and use in order to complete their hiring process on campus. But again, this is the side of things that normally was that full packet of paper is now going to be on an activity guide. So they will log in again, they will claim in their NDUS account, and then they will do their onboarding guide and following along with the onboarding manual.
Tricia, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So if we know what their ID is, they're not going to get that first email, but they will get this one, and then they can go right in and fill out all this paperwork after it's been overnight initiated.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. If they already have an ID and they've had a job on campus, for NDSU, excuse me, if they've had employment with NDSU before, and they have an ID, they won't get that first email. But just having an ID but never having a job on for NDSU before, they will still get email number 1 because they don't have an HR EMPL ID. They have only a student EMPL ID, or they have an ID from Dickinson. It'll stay the same one, but they'll still have to do email number 1. It's kind of an if-then scenario that's detailed more in that the colored workflow flowchart that was up at the start of the manual. That's more of kind of the if-then that I don't get into because it gets really confusing for people. So some people may not get email number 1. Some people, if they're already active, they won't get either email because they won't need to do an activity guide because they're already active employees. So it will kind of depend on each individual employee scenario.